Hey, inebriates, before we get into the show today, I just wanted to talk to you about today's sponsor. So I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I asked her what the date was, and she said that time has no meaning and numbers aren't real, but that's not necessarily true as we're coming out of lockdown all over the place. And today's sponsor will help you with that. It's Vaer Watches. Today's episode is presented by Vaer. Vaer was founded with the goal of building an affordable, everyday wristwatch that blends tasteful design with extreme durability and functionality. Vaer returns a sense of dignity to affordable wristwatches and are built to last. Vaer is a true American watch company specializing in both quartz and automatic watches. Vaer is offering our listeners 15% off if you use the code PODGO15. That's PODGO15. Go to VaerWatches.com to learn more and get your new timepiece today.
The beautiful thing about this podcast is it's just a regular ass conversation. We just have to make sure we're hitting record half the time.
We're recording. See, now I gotta clear my throat. I'm gonna sound like a jerk.
You can sound like a jerk either way.
I know, but welcome back to the Bar Talk Podcast. I forgot what the hell I was doing already. I am Andy of Inebriart, and I am joined today by the ever sober Jordan Chabot.
Thanks, man. That's the nicest thing you've ever said about me.
And so this episode, I think, is going to take a little explanation because I'm having a little deja vu because we've done this before. We had a little technical issue when we lost the episode, so we brought him back to redo the episode. Andrew from the Artisan Pig, welcome to the show, man.
Awesome, thank you. Glad to be back. Hopefully we can fix some stuff we messed up last time.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be so much better than the last one, I think.
Just call the last one practice.
Yeah,
good one.
Exactly.
We used up Carl for practice.
It was rehearsal, yeah.
Right, and then you got the real talent in.
Right, yeah, exactly. He's your, what do they call it in theater? Your understudy. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you, Fish.
He's the opening act.
Yeah. We boot him off stage.
My associate.
So we brought Andrew on because you're either the bravest person I've ever met or just out of your mind because you are opening a restaurant in the middle of COVID, which I know wasn't intentional, but...
No, it absolutely wasn't. We signed the lease a few weeks before everything kind of started crashing down, and then it was, watching it fall in slow motion and trying to figure out what to do. I think luckily one of our saving graces is we're doing pizza, so everybody loves pizza. Hopefully, we have a product that will deliver and people will continue to come and support us. So far, it's been pretty awesome, but, who knows what's going to happen in the next month or two. But we're trying to stay optimistic about it.
And it's. I know a lot of people are looking forward to it opening because the one thing a lot of people say, and this is not throwing shade at pizza in Plymouth, but they're like, oh, we need a really good pizza place. We have plenty of good takeout pizza. We don't have like that wood-fired kind of, I don't want to say gourmet. Is gourmet the right?
Yeah, it's a bar pizza town.
Yeah,
it's a bar pizza. Which, don't get me wrong, bar pizza's got its place.
Yeah.
But it's not artisan pizza.
No, and it's one of those things where I've been coming here for about 10 years with my wife and, just kind of watching the food scene grow and evolve. And I think, we're seeing with Su Casa, the upscale tacos, you got the Tasty doing some cool stuff. You've got a few other restaurants. I don't want to just go on a rant here naming a ton of places, but the food scene is definitely stepping up. So I think it's the right time to kind of come in with a little more upscale pizza, some good stuff, and kind of keep that change going in the right direction.
Yeah, when I first came into town 7 years ago, that was kind of the beginning of that, quality. I was very surprised because I was coming from New Bedford, and there's no knock on New Bedford. But they were a little, I don't know if it's because they're further from the city, but they were a little bit behind on, the craftier style foods and stuff. And I came to Plymouth with sort of my New Bedford mentality and was like, holy shit, the people of Plymouth know food, you know? And Nosh was open and cranking, Driftwood had just opened, Carl had opened here at New World, and people all of a sudden went from eating burgers and fries to having, these crazy flatbreads with tons of ingredients, stuffed pretzels, and Nosh. I mean, he was grinding his own burgers, growing his own herbs, and
Morway was amazing.
Oh.
He threw someone out one day because they asked for Heinz ketchup.
Yeah, he made his own ketchup from scratch.
He's like, I don't have that. If you want it, go somewhere else.
He's the ketchup Nazi. I just watched the Soup Nazi episode of Seinfeld yesterday. Yeah, that was Morway with ketchup.
Yeah. No ketchup for you.
It's definitely crazy, kind of seeing what some of these kids are doing in the kitchens now, and here in Plymouth, because it was when I've been coming, I never saw it, and now it's just watching some of these Instagram feeds. I'm like, holy crap, we need to step up to the plate before we even open, because there's, you look at some of these guys and what they're doing, it's just incredible. So, how do we stay relevant before we even open our doors?
It's crazy. It makes you better.
Right?
It really does. Our competition's really friendly down here, but it's also inspiring, and you don't want to be that guy with the shitty special on Instagram, you know what I mean?
No, and that's it. It's looking at, how do we kind of tap in? Because it is, friendly competition, but the more people that we can help draw up to this street, we obviously can't fit everyone, so that spreads people out to everyone else, and, not to compete against the waterfront, but the more people that we can start to bring up to Main Street, Court Street, obviously the better it is for everybody up here. So how do we keep that friendly competition that drives business and keeps everyone on top of their game?
Oh, this is going to work out. I like this guy. That's the mentality, the more the merrier.
Well, that's it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Kind of talking about opening up a business during COVID. It was one of those things where, we talked about it a little bit in the pre-recorded episode that disappeared. But it's, how do you keep your mindset and stuff? And we can't control what's going on with the pandemic. We can't control what's going on, with the rest of the country right now and everything going on. The only thing we can do is, really pay attention to the attitude that we're bringing to the table and what we're trying to do here, because that's the only way we're going to be successful. We can't just get bogged down in all the negatives. So,
are you finding weird successes because of COVID? I know, Inebriate Art itself, we've gotten some crazy good guests for our podcast just because it's COVID that I wouldn't have tried to get before, and so there's some definite good things that have come because of it.
Right. Just the option of Zoom. We've never even thought about recording our podcast over Zoom, and that's given us the ability to interview people that are across the country and stuff like that. So those fringe little things, Speedwell we took a second and hit the reset button and reformulated our menu and redid the entire restaurant physically too to make it safer and cleaner and just you look at things under a magnifying glass when it all gets stopped and slowed down by something unfortunate like COVID. But it's the people who use that time to, like you were saying, Angela, studying their product and saying and doing some market research of the neighborhood. That's the kind of stuff we're all sitting there scrolling on our phones bored because we're quarantined and shit. But you stop learning again, you get reinvigorated and.
Absolutely, and I think one of the cool things, and unfortunate for you guys, where you're sitting here burning cash, trying to figure out how the market's kind of changing. We've gotten to kind of take a back seat and not really burn through cash. Trying to keep up with how people are dining out and how they're doing all that stuff. But I guess where we're kind of at a disadvantage with that, though, is, doing a complete build-out that, ends up costing more money than you can ever imagine. We're, in a position where we can't really invest in plexiglass for, in between tables and doing all that stuff. So it's how do we get creative with, socially distancing, the tables and doing all that stuff to make people feel safe when they come in without, tapping into an already overextended budget. So,
as you're making that plan, do you kind of have it in mind where you're like, okay, so when we open, we're going to have these 15 tables or however many you have, but then kind of still have a plan of, okay, as things really reopen, we can move those tables in this way and bring in, 15 more or whatever.
Yeah, so when we started looking at, tables and chairs and what we're doing in that regard, and, plans for, what we want the interior to be, we pretty much said we're looking at this in the original lens that there is no COVID, there's no social distancing, there's none of that stuff. Anything excess we can, store in the basement and start pulling it up as, things change. And then again, figure out on the inside, how do we make it look good, while keeping everything, kind of distant, and not being able to use half of our restaurant kind of sucks. But at the same time, we can slowly fill it up and get it to where it needs to be. So
it's it almost plays into your hand a little bit. Now, it's unfortunate building anything during this time right now when you're not bringing in any income, but you also kind of have that situation where you didn't already lay everything out, and now you got to backtrack. So that would cost money how are these tables 3 feet apart in your entire restaurant, ready to go, ready to open, boom, COVID happens, great, I just spent money on these tables I can't use. Now you can kind of plan ahead a little there and be like,
So I know on some things, the tables and chairs, or more or less the chairs, they were, hey, we're going to do this. And we ended up buying everything. The tables we went a little lighter on. We can always pick up more as things open up. And then we're doing 2 kind of window bars in the front, and we got bar stools for that, but we're doing bar stools for the bar. But we were like, and we're not even going to buy those yet, because who knows when I can even have people sit at the bar again. So why am I going to waste the money on those? So we'll find something when phase 4 hits and we can start seating people there again. So I don't know. It's just an odd situation, but it's looking at it. How are we successful with just takeout? Or how are we successful, with the very limited scale of dining in? I mean, I would love to say, hey, let's just pack everyone in as tight as possible and, fit as many seats as we can socially distant, but that doesn't really make people feel good or comfortable coming in to eat. So how do you, play on that, and how do you make it work? I don't know.
That's
a struggle.
It is, and there is a wicked importance to that. Like, it's not overblown. I know there's a lot of people that are like, what's the difference of sitting at the bar, or what's 6 feet compared to 4 feet? There's some people that think that way, but that's honestly, I thought that was the majority, and it's not. Since we've done the modifications to the inside of Speedwell to make it safer, people are genuinely safe coming out, and we're seeing the benefits of that. Even though people might not act, up front that it's a big deal, I think deep down inside people are a little bit sort of nervous to go dine inside. So taking those precautions is more important, I think, than the consumer is even leading on right now. We've seen, like I said, a big uptick since we made those modifications. That hurt in the wallet because we spent a lot of money doing those things. But I think it's going to pay off in the long run. And for you guys to be planning ahead like that, too, and easing your way and taking it seriously, I think is going to benefit you guys, too. Especially because people are going to just be getting comfortable with your product as it is.
Right.
They should be physically comfortable in your restaurant as well.
Well, and that's hard, too, because, justifying probably the amount of cash that you guys spent to update to make people feel safer and more comfortable, that, realistically is, a 6-month, a year patch. So do you keep all that stuff? Does it just go in the basement into storage until next thing happens? And,
right.
Oh, we need,
a COVID trailer.
We've got to go back to our pandemic methods. So let's break out all that stuff again.
Don't say that. So. Once this is done, this is done.
But no, it's definitely the outdoor dining and all that stuff. It's kind of cool to see when everything was going on. I'd walk up and down Main Street, and just before we even started construction, it was dead, and it was terrifying to see. But now when I'm walking around up here during the day or during the evening, I mean, it's packed, it's busy, it's getting harder to find parking again. So I think things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, there's no parking in Plymouth, and you're in. Yeah.
Then COVID's over.
Nothing feels more normal than no parking.
It's funny. Like, me and Jordan had a conversation a while ago, and we're like, I feel like one day we're just gonna be sitting at the bar and turn to each other and be like, "Oh, it's over." Like, it's gonna be such a gradual, slow return,
right?
That I think it's just gonna creep up on us, and then one day. But you're right. I mean, I remember one day I closed the beer cellar. It was 7 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday, and it was a ghost town. It was like being on a movie set because there's just no one here, and it's such a weird feeling because
so eerie.
Normally it's 7 o'clock, and that's when people are starting to go out.
Yeah, it's when it gets a little loud out there. I used to live right across the street, and 7 o'clock there was no chance you were going to sleep. You know what I mean?
So, what has it been like mentally? I mean, it's got to be insanely difficult opening a business, and you always have to be kind of down to yourself. But doing it when it's such a volatile, economy,
Yeah, there's definitely a ton of ups and downs with it. Lots of highs, lots of lows. I think when I get sucked into the social media, mainstream media, like news cycle trap, I tend to get pretty depressed and just be like, man, this is a terrible decision, and do all that stuff. And then when, I get to that point and I'm able to just like put my phone down and not look at it again, I'm just like, oh, no, things are actually doing all right. And I think we get too focused on what's happening that, is out of our control and all of that stuff. And, I think mentally, there's been some hard days, but I think more or less we're getting a little better.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I remember when I opened my comic book shop, it was the end of the Bush administration, beginning of the Clinton administration, so we were in a recession. And people were like, you're crazy, I can't believe you're doing it. And I had the mentality of, if I can open this business during a recession, I'll be fine at any other time.
That's a great way to put it.
So that was kind of like my...
That's what a
keeping
lot of
myself
people
sane.
That's what a lot of people we've talked to said. If you can open and survive the initial few months of, that are probably going to be the trickiest with this, then, you should be fine overall. So... I mean, we still feel good about it, but obviously it's, we've taken a look at the models, we've taken a look at our projections and scaled it back considerably. Luckily, we've also since then talked to some people on the street, talked to some accountants and stuff, and based on their numbers, like, we're probably way under projecting, so that, gives me a little glimmer of hope. But at the same time, it's also, COVID time, so those predictions are pre-COVID, so who knows what's actually going to happen. We'll see.
What now? I'm sure you're tired, as with anybody who's building something, gets tired of hearing this question, but what are you guys projecting as far as opening right now?
We're probably looking at middle to end of October, realistically. When we first recorded this, we were, I think, thinking middle to end of September. We hit a few snags with construction, as you always do. Nothing's ever perfect. So... everything's still moving along pretty nicely, but probably end of September, beginning of October before we can even get in and start doing food. So probably a week or two to start training staff, get through that.
Right.
Another week of friends and family and just working out the kinks of trying to do service. And then, without knowing what we plan on doing for takeout with pizza and all that stuff, I think I'm just going to make a giant batch of pizza dough and just spend an hour just slinging pizza, see how many we can do, how fast we can do it, and go from there. And, just maybe pass pizzas out to people as they're walking down the street. Be like, here you go,
Smart.
Oh, yeah,
Very smart.
I can't, do a time test and see what we're doing in an hour and, have 100 pizzas sitting on the bar waiting for, to go in the trash can. So,
right.
Could be a good publicity. I'll send some down to the restaurant. We'll send some down, to all of our friends.
We'll come record Bar Talk that day.
Pizza, yeah, right. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That'd be fun.
We can use the space.
Yeah,
it'll be a fun little live segment. So
that'd be cool. Maybe we can even set up. We can live stream that day.
Beautiful.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So
I'd be like, come down and get some pizza.
Right.
We can do that. Make that happen. Fun.
Wonderful.
Really good idea. Yeah, and you know what? And I'm sure you've heard this, but fall, October is like busy season up here.
Yep.
October through January.
That still baffles me.
That's the bread and butter.
I've been here almost a decade, and it's baffling that it's a beautiful summer day and Main Street's busy-ish, but then you go one street over and it's like wall-to-wall people.
Yeah, the Water Street is always going to be, the pinnacle during the summer. And now the shift is back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those restaurants have been down there for so long. East Bay Grill, Cabbie Shack, like they're institutions down there. That's just what people, when they come back up to Plymouth, they go with what they know. They go down the water, they look at the rock for 2 minutes, and then they go to Cabbie Shack or East Bay. So we do, while I think the summers have been a lot better than when I first came into town, because there's so much high quality food up here, and people realize there's stuff going on up here, fall is always going to be our bread and butter. The locals come back out. The tourists have kind of gone away. The waterfront restaurants have slowed down or closed seasonally when it gets way colder. And I love the fall. Crush it.
Right. Well, I'm also wondering if it's going to help, with the limited seating and limited capacity, if that'll kind of help extend our honeymoon period a little bit longer into, the winter, the February, March, just because we are unfortunately going to have to turn away more people, just because we're at, a third of our capacity realistically.
Right.
So, if that helps, but it's all, trying to come up with projections as far as what you're going to do for people in general is a crapshoot, and then throw in pandemic and everything else, and it's, I don't have any clue realistically what to expect at this point. So, but we'll see.
Now you're talking about doing takeout, and people generally think of delivery for pizza. Are you going to be doing delivery as well, or?
I'm trying to figure that one out. It's one of those things where I personally don't want to turn into a pizza delivery company.
Right.
I don't know that I want to hire someone to do that, and I'm still kind of sketched out to work with third-party delivery systems.
I know Jordan has, not to mention names, because I feel like if we do, Jordan's just going to bash them, and I don't want to get sued.
oh, trust me, I'm the one that's going to be doing the suing.
The third party is not great.
Aside from the financial toll it takes, and I'm sure, if you look at what it costs to hire someone to do delivery versus third party, it's probably close to a wash at that point. But it's also one of those things where they don't work for me, so I don't know what they're doing with my food once it gets into their hands.
Right.
Amen.
And the customers, and they're going to Yelp a review of you, not of the driver.
Right, based on how that delivery driver delivered it. So
right.
If they're, throwing around the box of pizza or the sausages, this and that, and it comes in as a mess, then, I have zero control over that
right.
and anything like that. So, and sure, we can put the little, tamper-resistant stickers on so people know that their food wasn't messed with, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't thrown around or taking too long to deliver or anything else that can negatively impact that. And again, it's just one bad review, and that's enough to sink a ship at this point. So
we had an issue last week.
I heard about that.
Yes. We had a woman call very, very upset about her takeout order on Thursday night. And this is a week after I had called Grubhub and told them to take my menu down. I never signed up with them. I never gave them any authorization to use my restaurant or my menu. And they were using a 5-year-old menu. So there were things on the menu that were priced wrong. There were things that we no longer offer, especially during COVID, that were on their website. And we were getting tons of Grubhub calls. So, it works. They're going to get you business, but they didn't do it the right way. So this lady calls really upset because there were 2 things missing from her order. And we're like, we never took your order. Grubhub took her order and took things that we don't have on the menu. And this woman's calling us upset. Right. And the other thing, too, and that's just a whole other situation. So I called them, got us taken down, which is a big process. They make you sign 2 sheets and do a survey and all this stuff. So they basically, it's a form of extortion, almost like, we're putting your restaurant on our website without permission, and you can't take it down unless you spend 45 minutes on the phone and do this survey. It's just dirty stuff. And it's just, and when you tip your Grubhub driver, that doesn't go back to the restaurant. So the Grubhub driver takes that on top of the 30%, on top of, and whatever he gives. And there's also the issue that they're all double dipping. So Grubhub drivers are also doing Uber Eats and they're also doing DoorDash all at the same time while they're driving their cars around. Yeah. So to Andrew's point, how long is that food getting in their car? Because they're picking up 3 orders from 3 different restaurants at a time, doing one loop, delivering it all, and then going back and doing that. So now your pizza, because you were the first restaurant, Artisan Pig was the first one he picked up from, has been in the car for an hour and a half while he went to Speedwell and he went to this other
New
place.
World and wherever. Yeah.
It's a very, very flawed system. I love the ride sharing thing. I think it's great for the environment. I think it's really helped out with public transportation. But with the food delivery thing, especially now, with sanitation and all that stuff is so important. Having a third party that you can't trust handling your product that you work so hard on, delivering to your guests that you've worked so hard to acquire as part of your clientele, there's just, I just don't see how that's beneficial for any restaurant. Maybe a chain, but...
Right. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a way to kind of do a partnership with a handful of restaurants and say, hey, we're kind of going to go in together on something like that, where we maybe collectively hire someone.
You get like the Plymouth delivery guy,
some of that
right?
stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to recall. I don't remember where I saw it, but I think there was a town that started kind of their own DoorDash type company because they were sick of the options, the big guys that were doing that. But to your point with the Grubhubs, but it's as you know, the Yelps, the Open Tables, all these places where it's you either gotta pay to play to have pretty much terrible service. Like with Yelp, they won't put your reviews up if you don't pay them. And then, I also saw that all the calls pretty much get diverted to Yelp, and then they take fees from that and this and that.
Yeah,
so
we talked about that on a previous episode.
One of my absolute favorite stories I've ever heard about Yelp was this restaurant owner. I don't remember where it was located, but he offered, I think it was like a 10% discount.
It was in Colorado,
if you gave him a 1-star review.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they like called him up all mad. They're like, this breaks our policy. And he's like, so take me off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. He's like, well, I'm going to keep doing it because I don't care.
It's his restaurant, right?
Right. And that's it. It's just turned, the average consumer into like the biggest food critic in the world. And that's the problem. It's, rather than, hey, there's an issue, let me talk to the manager, let me do this or that. It's let me just go on Yelp and, while I'm sitting at the table at the restaurant and complain about it without actually trying to take steps to mitigate it. So
right.
I've actually had a friend recently where I had that same conversation where he was like, place he went all the time and he's like bitching about it. And I'm like, well, did you talk to them? Did you call and say you were unhappy with your food? And he's like, well, no. And I'm like, then shut up. Like, if you're not going to give
Coward.
them and it's that, well, I shouldn't have to do it. Like, man, people make mistakes all the time.
Right.
Nope. I always want to be like, where do you work so I can go in and review your performance?
I say that all the time. It was like, I think episode 7 or 8 of Bar Talk when we did like a full-on Yelp episode. But I've told this story.
I think that was like episode 3.
Maybe. Yeah, it was early on.
Yeah. And one of our favorites, my favorite thing to this day was everyone then pulled up a 1-star review about their own restaurant and started reading it.
I was just going to remind where the lady read someone else.
Funny.
Never stepped foot into the Speedwell Tavern, left me a 1-star review because she read someone else's 1-star review.
Yeah.
So she's like, never been here, but after reading that other review, I'm giving 1 star. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And I think Carl's was like, I don't remember what it was, but like, say a steak and cheese. I really don't like that steak and cheese sub I had there. And he's like, we don't even serve steak and cheese sub. He's like, did they just type Tavern Plymouth and go with the first thing that came up?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the whole social media and stuff has done such great things for our restaurants, especially when you're trying to build a brand and open and people can't yet come in and see your product. You can create hype and all that stuff. But there's also the flip side to it with the Yelps and the Grubhub, all this complicated shit we haven't quite figured out yet. I love getting like positive reviews, and if I get a negative review, it's good because I can go to something and I don't have to write in a book when we got somebody that complained or called or whatever. I have something to reference to. It keeps my servers honest because they have in the back of their mind, they're like, even if Jordan's not here to see this happen, if I get a bad review on Facebook or a bad review on Yelp, he's going to see that, So it's kind of like having another manager.
People have no problem putting someone's name in there. Being,
Nope. Oh, yeah.
Denny served me. No offense, Denny. Just the first person I thought
most
of.
likely it would be Denny, who gets more freaking testimonials than anybody. So it's Blue Eyes.
So, Andrew, have you even tried to start to hire people yet? Because I know there's an ongoing thing of, and I hate, and I don't want to get political, but there's a political party who's like, we're paying people to stay home, blah blah blah. But in the same aspect, where I am currently unemployed, there's no jobs. From what I was working, if I took a job now, I'd be making less than I make on unemployment, and I can't do that.
Right.
So, have you even ventured down that road yet?
We did. We brought on 2 people already, one for the kitchen, one for the front. And we brought them on a little early, but then right after we brought them on is when we learned that we were kind of behind a month, so that wasn't as helpful. But we had one person already back out. They were like, 45, 50 hours, nights. weekends. Like, that's completely opposite of my significant other's schedule. And I'm like, so why'd you even apply to be a restaurant manager?
I was going to say, why would you even think of the restaurant industry in general?
Weekends and this and that. But, so that's fine. So we're going to kind of, my wife
this restaurant's not just going to be open from like noon to 4 every
Right.
day? Like,
right. Pick my kids up for me.
So it's one of those things where, we'll kind of probably take the driver's seat on the front of house for a little bit, and then hopefully one of our servers will be able to kind of step up and fill that role. But I got to imagine probably in the next 2 weeks we'll probably start looking to hire for the remainder.
Don't let
of the
Carl
roles,
meet any of your employees.
So, that's how you break them into Plymouth, though. Yeah. You got to go through the call gauntlet to officially work in downtown Plymouth.
Yeah. So how do you like working here? Do you get enough shifts?
He's the poach master flex over there, dude.
No, it's I'm interested to see. Looking around, it does seem like there's some pretty decent talent around here. But again, there's and
it's also one of those things that, and I've noticed this, where Plymouth has its almost like own background check kind of thing, where you can just like go to Jordan or Carl or Aaron and be like, hey, how about this guy? And they'll be like, oh, he's great, or oh, I don't know.
That one, he gets kicked around like a soccer ball. He's worked at 12 restaurants in the last 6 months. Red flag.
So whereas everyone is like so close that it's very easy to be like, oh, well, I'm just not going to go down that road.
It's so funny because I just, in my memories on Facebook, a year ago, I was looking for kitchen help and I had posted, this is what we're looking for, blah, 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 blah. And at the end I said, and if you've burned anybody in the restaurant community at downtown Plymouth, I already know, so don't bother applying, right? Because we all talk.
Well, that's what I love. It's that, hiring aside, it's even the short time that we've been here and we're not even open, some of the relationships that we've already built with some of the local chefs and restaurateurs, it's pretty cool to be welcomed into, the open arms and stuff like that. So it is nice to have that. There's already been a handful of people that I've reference checked through, a couple other restaurateurs that I know. So it is kind of nice getting that feedback, knowing like what's the going rate. So I'm not, either offending people or like way overpaying people. Trying to, make sure that we're in budget. So it's definitely been nice to have, that support to learn a little bit more about how Plymouth itself operates. So.
Right.
So I think we're coming close to the end because I know Andrew has a child. He has Jordan. I don't know if you understand. Like some people have kids and they have to,
Yeah, I definitely don't. I think I just posted 7 pictures of my kid while we were doing this podcast.
So you're not only just doing pizza, you're doing like homemade sausage.
Correct.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because
hell yeah, who doesn't love sausage?
Yeah, so we started.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
We started farmers markets up in Maine last summer, and we went through about 1,700 pounds of sausage in a once-a-week farmers market. We did sell a little bit down in the Plymouth area just to friends and family that we knew down here. But that kind of turned into the launching ground for what this is turning into. And it's been a fun process. I love sausage. I love making sausage. It's one of the first seriously professional kitchens I worked at. That's what I spend a lot of time doing, and it's kind of been a passion of mine. And it's definitely a labor of love. You can make it as simple or as complicated as you want, but we will sell it retail as well. So if you want to have a cookout, this or that, take it home and grill out and do all that stuff. But just kind of rambling off topic, I feel now. But
no, that's what you said. No, I'm like thinking. I'm like
everyone listening is drooling.
Yeah. Those are 2 things. So I've been in the restaurant industry for 20 years now, and I've had a lot of experience, most of the front of the house stuff when I first came up, but a lot of kitchen experience. It was a giant banquet restaurant. I got to see a lot. I got to help behind the line once in a while, do a lot of salad stuff like that. The 2 things I never really got comfortable doing in my experience in the kitchen is pizza and sausage. So, like, this shit just fascinates me. Like,
see, what I'm so excited about is it's different than everything else.
Yes.
I mean, there are places that have pizza, and, like, there's bar-to-go pizza and, the Greek takeout style pizza, but there's no artisan pizza. There's no homemade sausage.
There's nothing even close to that.
It's so different that I'm like, that's what I think that's what will make it successful. Is you can be like, I'm in the mood for pizza. Let's go to the Artisan Pig.
Right. I'm in the mood for sausage. I mean, I think I'm in the mood for sausage every day.
I feel like that's going to be
now.
more like you're walking by the Artisan Pig and go, I want sausage.
Yeah. Smell it, right?
The sausages and the sandwiches take off a little more for our lunch business, and then the pizzas maybe more for our dinner business.
Yeah.
And in my head, that's the way I kind of see it playing out. But, and again, in my head, everything's perfect. This is going to be, the best, easiest grand opening, and there's no bad days. But then I think back to, my 16 years in the restaurant industry, and I'm like, that's not true. Every day's a challenge.
What do you mean the water main's broken for a third time?
Come on, man. We're going to do it every episode.
Sorry, man. I haven't brought that up in a while. Sorry.
A few episodes.
You
All
have,
right.
you have PTSD. I get it.
A little bit. I just started twitching. Yeah, downtown Plymouth's infrastructure, for a heads up, is 400 years old. So things like water main breaks and power outages when someone sneezes too hard, that fucking happens.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating as hell. But you'll figure it out. You'll get there. I mean, that was something, and I know we're getting to the end of it, but real quick, like, he's doing something we did, and he's taking a space that used to be the surf shop down here. Mm-hmm. It was an old skate shop, surf shop, and it was never a restaurant.
And it was like a falling down building.
Yeah,
when I saw it close, I'm like, they're going to tear that down.
Yeah. It looks like you guys reinforced it pretty well.
Yeah.
I see a lot of work going every time we drive down.
Oh, it looks totally different now.
Right. But that sucks. Like, gutting an entire space that's never a restaurant, you got the luxury of kind of planning where you want everything to go, but there's that extra expense and that labor, and the building just itself hasn't ever supported something like that.
Right.
So I did the same thing with Speedwell. It was 2 storefronts. We knocked down the middle wall, and it was frustrating. And that's the little things like that. Like,
and then you like break open a wall, and you're like, oh great.
Yes,
there's another $4,000.
Yes, exactly. Oh, there's asbestos. There's this, there's that. So
well, and the thing that a lot of people don't understand is when you're looking at, when you're leasing or commercial properties and stuff like that, a lot of it is like studs out is the landlord and like studs in is the tenant. So it's like it doesn't matter necessarily that like those walls, I can't take those walls with me after I leave. I can't take those bathrooms with me after I leave, but that still falls on me to pay for.
Right.
So I'm essentially paying to fix their building up to hopefully make money and be successful. And
then if you aren't, he can then rent it to another restaurant.
They have a fully built restaurant that they can just turn to someone and say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to try and get what I can out of it."
That's right.
But it's it puts us in a tricky position. So
I know that's why they always say buy the building, but like, okay, sure, let me just pull. Here's $1 million, perfect. Yeah, I support your building. Like, who the fuck does that? You're spending money trying to open up a restaurant. So.
Yeah. So I was looking at it, for what that building sold, what they're putting in, what we're putting in. If we were to try and buy that outright, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And I would love to do it and say, yeah, we own the real estate, so if worse comes to worse, we can just sell and do that. But the capital investment up front to do that and then think about a complete build out and everything else, it's financially not feasible.
It's insanity. Yeah. It's insanity.
So I think we're going to do last call.
Last call.
Yeah. So this is where we go around. We plug whatever we want to plug, and I'm going to start with Jordan because I haven't really thought about anything.
I am on the spot. Is this one going to air soon?
I think this is going to be this week.
It'll be this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be Thursday.
That fish nodded. If you could hear that.
Yeah.
All right. Then I'm going to plug Mr. Stephen Coe will be on Beat Bobby Flay / Chopped this Sunday night, September 7th at 9:00. We're going to have it on at Speedwell on all the TVs, rooting him on, but he already passed.
He's in the Final Four, right?
He's in the Final Four, so it's a big tournament, big chopped tournament, if you're familiar with the show. 4 chefs compete, and then the winner goes on to the next round or whatever. But they did it tournament style, and then the person who wins the tournament, actually, they do like a mashup and goes up against Super Chef Bobby Flay with his speech impediment and his shishio peppers. But Stephen Coe, local legend, Plymouth legend, he's been really doing the circuit on the Food Network, and he's a friend of mine, and I want everyone to root for him. He's a cocky motherfucker on TV, and I love every second of it. So Steve Coe, 9:00, Food Network, this Sunday night. Watch it.
Cool. Andrew.
Very good. I'm going to do a quick plug for Habitat for Humanity. They were actually gracious enough to bring us on to do a virtual cooking demo with them. And since this is airing this week, go to the Artisan Pig Facebook page and find a link. But we're actually raffling off a dinner for 4 once we open. So it should be a good time. Help support a good cause. And hopefully you win a dinner for 4 with us.
Nice.
Badass.
That's awesome. I don't really have much to plug, and if you've listened to more than 2 episodes, you know how much this is going to this is going to cause me physical pain, but I want to give a shout out to Jordan.
Hey! I knew you were going to say that. You said
But for 22 days, you've been doing push-ups online to bring awareness to veteran suicide, correct?
Correct.
And like a rock star, banged it out. I know it gave you shit. And I was petrified.
Everybody gave me shit.
I was petrified that you were going to nominate me.
To
the point where I hurt my elbow so I wouldn't have to. But no, I think that was solid, and you should be proud. And
thank you, man.
And thank you for bringing light, or helping bring light to something like that. So
22 of our veterans who defended this country commit suicide every day in this country. It's an average. But so I was nominated by a local guy who runs the Old Colony Club, Curtis Chin.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, yep. Curtis. He's the man. Nominated by him to do those push-ups, and and then I'm going to continue to do it for 140 more days for Breonna Taylor as well. So it's any sort of positivity on Facebook's nice. There's a lot of negative shit going on in the world, but we all can do our part. And something stupid as me embarrassing myself doing push-ups is
so that's it. The best way to fix a lot of these programs is start local.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
What can we do locally to make things better, and it kind of just goes up from there. So
hell yeah,
it's not happening from the top down. So let's start from the bottom up.
Right,
great way to say it.
And do something even super simple, positive. Pay for that guy's coffee in line behind you, and just a simple thing.
Hell yeah,
make one person's day better.
Go look at Andy's mural over at Speedwell Tavern that he's working on with his daughters.
Yeah, wait till it's done. I think Thursday.
Tomorrow?
Thursday? Either tomorrow or Thursday, but most likely Thursday.
Cool.
So, but check out the murals at the tavern. Those are coming out great.
Local artists, baby.
Yeah. So thanks for listening. Make sure you email us with your comments, questions, suggestions. We love hate mail because
want hate mail so bad.
We've been abused so much in life that we get off on it. So bartalkcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on all social medias at bartalkcast, and we love you all. And you can hear us next time.
Peace. Masks up.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can find us on all social medias at Inebriart, except for Instagram, we're at Inebriart6. You can email us with your questions, complaints, and whatnot at inebriart@yahoo.com. And if you're looking for more podcasts, you can check out the other podcasts on our network, Retro Redoctopus, America's Hometown Horror, and, of course, Bar Talk, Old Colony, and Inebriart Podcast, the original. So check those out and subscribe and comment so we can reach more people, and thanks for listening.